what is happening in our Earth planet right now? Are we safe?
We are seeing extreme weather conditions. Where people don't have snow, they are having snow. Where people expect snow, you're actually getting less snow. That's why Malaysia is already announced this year for 3 industries, there will be carbon tax. You're going to be taxed for all the carbon that you produce to run your business.
I think in recent years, it's getting hotter and hotter. Sometimes this time of the year is supposed to be raining, and then suddenly this time of the year next year is hot.
In the news itself, you can see the most scary one was the fire. In the US or California, where the fire really went through big swath of land and homes all got burned out.
What is ESG and why should we care?
I would say ESG really is about sustainability. It stands for environment, social and governance.
It's something that blows my mind because I always read about it. What is carbon credit?
When we calculate the carbon emissions, it's really to figure out how much you emit. So let's say I emit 100,000 tonnes. So that's where carbon credit comes in, where you buy to offset your carbon credit to get it to zero. I was asked this question: what if you fail? Then I actually asked the question back: how do you define the failure? Because in any case, however it turns out to be, the experience itself is so valuable.
Working in finance in Bloomberg for 14 years, the pay is going to be pretty damn good. Quitting that to open this, how did that feel, that decision?
The key is really...
Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, me and Jim would like to ask you for a quick favor. It turns out that over half of the people who tune into the Entrepreneur Journal haven't subscribed yet.
And if you've been enjoying the conversation that we're having, the raw stories, the strategies, the lesson from creatives, athletes, founders, and dreamers, the best way to spot us is simple. Just hit that subscribe button.
Well, it's free. It just takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps us to keep the show going and growing.
And here's our promise to you. We're going to keep showing up with better guests, deeper stories, and better production quality every single week. Now, thank you for being here. Let's get into the episode.
Hi, welcome back to the Entrepreneur Journal. Today we're joined by someone who quietly transforming how business across Asia tackle of the biggest challenge in our time, which is climate change. So he's the co-founder and CTO of Pantas, a pioneering climate tech company based in Malaysia. Before this, he spent 14 years at Bloomberg in New York and London, building trading platform and leading AI innovation for regulatory tech, but he chose to bring that expertise home in Malaysia. So in this episode, we are not just talking about technology, we are diving into state of our planet, why ESG is more than a corporate buzzword, the urgent need the climate accountability, and how Southeast Asia innovation can lead the change in sustainable transformation. Welcome, Eong.
Hey,
Welcome,
thanks. Thanks to you. And thanks, Gene. Thanks for the opportunity to join you guys today.
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Good to have you.
I know you have a very interesting background. You're going to be discussing on something that the public mostly don't know about, especially if you are working in a corporate company. So we're trying to make it as interesting as possible because I have no idea about the topic.
Me too.
About the topic that we're discussing.
But I think it's really, really important for people to understand about our planet and environment. But let's start with this, Eon. So what is happening in our Earth planet right now? And are we safe? Staying on Earth right now.
Well, I think I'll start with if you read the news, right, you will see that there's a lot of extreme weather behavior, right? So you can see, where people don't have snow, they're having snow, right? And then where people expect snow, you're actually getting less snow, right? And then even in Malaysia itself, right, you see a lot more flood. Right? All the flooding that happened is all because of a climate change in that sense, right? So if you take a one step back and you say, hey, what is all this climate change and this extreme weather behavior coming from, right? It's really can be attributed to the warming of the planet. Right? The warming of the planet is where it comes from. Okay, then you're asking us, so what caused the planet to warm up, right? The world to warm up is because of these greenhouse gases. Right? These greenhouse gases trap the heat. So in particularly that we always refer to is the carbon dioxide. Right? So then everyone here, just for simplicity, refer to carbon. Right? So then, okay, so how does this carbon relate to my everyday activity, right? So thanks to the United Nations and all, the world has figured out that, hey, there's a way to measure it. So then you're talking about the greenhouse gas protocol, GHG, right? And they call it for shorts that break it into scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. I'm going to stay very high level, trying not to to go into
simple language that
simple
we normal
language.
people can understand.
Correct, right? So you can think about the scope 1 they all talk about is your direct emissions. So that is everything that comes from your vehicle that you own. So let's say you drive a car and then you actually pay for your petrol. That's your scope 1 emission. Then the scope 2 will be in a place, in a building, in a house, you're indirect. So you actually consume electricity. The electricity burns something to generate it for you. So that is your scope 2. Right? And then when you hear about scope 3, it's like think about everything that you buy. For example, the glass that you have today, the table, the chair, everything that you buy to run and to live, that's your scope 3. So scope 3 itself, you broke into indirect, many categories in there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 15. So purchase good or service, your commute, how you travel here, your business travel, and then, your investments are all covered under scope 3. So in general, that allows you to do an apple to apple comparison, and then you can figure out that, hey, okay, what is my emission? And then if I go even more, a little bit, okay, just bear with me a bit more. It's what is carbon emissions in that sense, right? Then really there's a formula to do it. It means all the activity we talk about. That's when you talk about electric, you talk about your petrol, everything that you buy.
Which is the scopes, right? The 1
Correct.
to 3. Yeah.
And then each of them, the activity, and then you have the conversion factor, we call it the emissions factor, that's published by people who have done research, like EPA and all, and then they tell you for electricity or for mobile combustion, this is what you need to use to get the estimated number. So that's all I'm gonna go in as detail. So it means your activity, your emission factor, give you the right, basically the estimated carbon emissions.
Right.
So then there's a lot more to go into the GHG protocol. It's just like accounting rules, what goes into pick the right emission factor, what decides your location, the closest one, what's the latest one. There's more. What can be included, what should be excluded. There's a lot more to it. But high level, all you need to know, your activity, there's a conversion factor. There's a way to pick it, and then you get your estimated carbon emissions.
I see.
And that basically allows us to come back to, hey, why our earth are warming, why you see all this erratic behavior, flooding and all, right? So that's also what our companies do, Pantas, right? Is we actually help companies to measure, manage, report, and also to finance their decarbonization effort, right? So AI-powered platform, we try to use as much technology as possible to make it more seamless.
I see.
Back.
So going back to like our weather currently, where you mentioned it's getting warmer, there are places that winter suddenly not so cold anymore. Even in Malaysia itself and Southeast Asia, the weather is getting crazier. I think in recent years, I mean, I don't know if I'm imagining this or it's psychology or what. Maybe you can tell me if it's true. Recent years, it's getting hotter and hotter. I mean, the seasons is changing as well. Like sometimes this time of the year is supposed to be raining, and then suddenly this time of the year next year is hot already. Right, sometimes it's flooding. Certain parts are colder. So all this, am I envisioning it? Am I imagining it, or is it really happening?
It is really happening. That's the view that we've seen, and I don't think in the news itself you can see the most scary one was the fire. Right, in the US and California, where the fire really went through a big swath of land and homes all got burned out.
The LA fire.
Right, so in that sense, it is happening, right? Whether or not we agree to it. And then when people go to ski, for example, right? There are no more snow. And then places where it should be end of the winter already.
Yeah. Suddenly the winter extend or came later.
Right. So that's why we like to use the word a bit more. Climate change. Right. Where it's changing, right? Where you're talking about hot in Malaysia and then rain, and then where you don't expect it to rain.
Like in Bangkok, Thailand. Few years ago, like last year, I was there. Super hot, crazy hot. I never sweat so much in my life before. Like instantly stepping out from a hotel after a shower, instantly sweat, and I don't sweat much actually.
Correct.
So I thought, what is going on? Is it normal to maybe the seasons issue, or is it the climate is really changing because of all this pollution that's going on?
Yeah, it is. In my view, it is. Right. So I mean, I think there's no way to refute that, right? In the sense that we are seeing extreme weather conditions, and that's how we see it. Right? The climate has changed, and we need to do something about it. Right? So that's really where we go next.
So let's say if we don't do anything about it moving forward, what's going to happen? If we go on this stage, right, is it like sustainable? Like it's gonna taper down, or it's just gonna accelerate more and more, and maybe one day in Malaysia you can see snow even.
I wish to.
I wish too, but that is the really bad sign.
We're starting to have all the taufan and all the hurricane, typhoon.
It will be really bad for economy, because
Yeah.
all your trees, your plants, your agriculture, all will be impacted, right? So it all different matter.
I don't know. That's the end of the world. Right? Malaysia sees
Probably.
snow. Enjoy it 2 more years.
You see, I think to really add on to that, I would say, in some ways, yes, we have to act sooner and we have to do more. But also, I'm not sure if everyone's aware as well, right? There's actually a big initiative or policy that are actually pushing and try to drive awareness and also for us to do something about it. Therefore, the biggest one that I would share is really the by the European Union, right? The CBAM. That's what they call it, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So that is actually a way for to kind of prevent, they call it a carbon leakage, right? But what this CBAM is supposed to do is that if you or Malaysian companies are exporting to Europe for several industries right now, iron and steel are two of them, and then you actually have to produce your carbon number. Right? So then they will start to charge, at least the plan is, I don't know whether they will change or not. The plan is next year they will start that you have to pay to buy the certificates. So it's more like a tax. Unless you pay in your already show that you can prove that you pay in the originating country, then you don't have to pay that one. But the whole idea is to make sure that, let's say, for example, you are a producer in Europe, right? You are paying carbon tax there. You don't just move and import from outside, right? Then nobody is actually reducing the carbon emission, right? So then that's why this carbon border adjustment mechanism is there. So then that means it impacts everyone in Malaysia as well, as long as you export your materials there. So having said that, that's why I really want to give credit where it's due, right? Like there is a lot of awareness and we are very proactive about it. And this goes back to Bank Negara Malaysia, right? So if you're not aware, they have allocated 2 billion ringgit to this low carbon transition financing. They call it LCTF. So all this LCTF is supposed to do is that to help SME to transition towards a low carbon. So to get you started to calculate so that in case you sell to a big corporate that export to Europe, they can still continue to buy from you. Right? So having said that, there is already a fund. And to even encourage Malaysian SME to take it, right? They created this program called the Greening Value Chain Program. What it's supposed to do is to say that, hey, we are the software provider, one of them, the technology for that, so that it allows everyone SME who say, oh, what is this low carbon transition and all, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit hard to understand to actually even take that financing. So then what we do is that we simplify it. We say, okay, don't really need to understand the science behind it. All you have to do is use our software, the Pantas Lite, the light version, and you submit your electricity bill and you submit your petrol consumptions, and we will do the rest for you. So then with that, you're tracking. And then as long as you can show that you are transitioning towards a lower, you qualify for the financing. So that's the whole greening value chain is all about, is to work with our enterprise client, all their supply chain, the smaller SME, and give them a free access to this software where they can now get the financing for it. So in that sense, it's creating awareness in the corporate world, right? And also the way that I see it is carbon tax is coming, right? So that's why Malaysia is already announced this year for 2026 for 3 industries, iron, steel, and energy. There will be carbon tax.
Tax.
Correct. So you're going to be taxed for all the carbon that you produce to run your business.
Right.
So having said that, that's why I was saying, right, there's a lot of actually awareness, but I just think that, it needs to be sooner, right? There's urgency for it, and that we have that discipline to see it through and the determination.
So you're not just not paying for just your electricity bill, but how much carbon you're emitting from your electricity.
Correct. You have to care about it, but then you control by reducing your usage, your consumption.
I see.
Right. So then you can control by changing to EV, for example, So a policy shift that we introduced, for example, right, the government's policies to not tax EV vehicle, you can see how it transforms your behavior. Right, a lot more EV cars are in the streets today. Right, there's all the charging stations that pop up, and the best that I can see is even in my hometown in Bukit Mertajam, there's an EV showroom. It's such a small town, right? I was like so shocked when I went back home. I was like, wow, there's actually an EV showroom, more than one. So you can see how policy actually shift, and you can actually drive towards positive, environmental behavior.
But based on what you are saying, right? So Bank Negara Malaysia provide 2 billion
Financing
to the industrial players that like iron, raw materials.
No, it's actually for SME actually.
Oh.
So it's
SME.
financing. So they allocate 2 billion that people for SME can apply for the loan.
I
So
see.
it's really it doesn't have to be this service industry. It's any SME in
So the
Malaysia.
loan is for what? Like helping the SME who wants to lower their
Transition.
carbon emission. So they get the loan
To
to
lower-
help them lower, like
Correct.
buying
maybe-
energy saving bulbs or
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Or
to-
you can
to
install your
aircon,
solar panel.
Solar panel, I
Or
see.
you want
Change to EV cars.
Garage EV trucks, maybe motorcycle, maybe. So anything at all. Or even as simple as like you want to give out buy the commute pass for your employee that so that they don't drive to work
Oh,
anymore.
okay.
Ah.
Anything
So,
at all
okay.
to help them
To
lower
transition.
reduce.
And this is where Pantas, you guys come in to help them to track, to analyze, and where they can actually lower, and then help them implement it.
Correct. So that's one of the conditions or criteria to get the financing is that you need to be able to show that you are tracking it and you are lowering it. Right. So then that's why we work with Bank Negara and we say, hey, actually we can build and offer this light version of our software for all the SME to use who is a client to our enterprise.
But why does Bank Negara actually so focus into this? Is it because it will affect the Malaysia economy because they're unable to export after that?
Yeah, so I think that's their biggest concern, right? So they did a research. The exact numbers are like in the 200 billions or something like that, where it will be impacted if the SME do not start to calculate their carbon emissions. Because then you cannot sell to this big enterprise that export to EU, but they will have to buy from someone else. So that's the truth. Yeah. Yes.
I think then this ties a bit to ESG, right? So this all links up to ESG, which is I heard about it. Although I work in a company before that, also we try to incorporate ESG because we work with international clients. But I haven't really studied much because it's not under my jurisdiction. So having you here, what is ESG and why should we care? Because I think that question will ties up to export import as well. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, I think for number one is like, if you don't really want to see all this extreme rain every day, we should care. That's the first one. But I would say ESG really is about sustainability. Right? How do we live sustainably? Right?
So what's the ESG actually?
It stands for environment, social, and governance. Right. So then you see when we talk about carbon, we talk a lot about the E. Right? And the social and governance is really about how do you actually make sure that you have the right diversity. You actually have a board a policy that make sure that you don't use child labor, for example. There's no abuse. You pay the minimum wage. So all those are social and governance, right? That you are in place to make sure that it's fair for everyone. Right. So the E and the S and G comes together as like, think about it as our responsibility in some ways, doing the right things, and then to live in harmony. Right? So that's why sustainability is the word to actually glue all these three together. How do we use the resources, track it, and responsibly, and then give it back as well, right? And that's where it all comes into the balance, I would say. But the thing is, I will also add on is a lot of companies and all are looking into it, or the awareness in Malaysia, credit where it's due, it's really to Bursa. Right? So Bursa, the stock exchange, have a policy that require all listed companies to report their scope 1, scope 2, and 2 categories in scope 3. So business, travel, employee, commute, right? So that in that sense that you will see all listed companies in the main market, right? They actually have to calculate and then actually have to report yearly, right? So that create awareness.
I
So
see.
everyone is asking, how can I do it? And most likely, if you're just starting out, typically what we have observed is they will be using Excel sheets. Right? You will start to say, okay, let me start with collect all my electricity. Okay,
The TMB bills.
Correct.
How much you are paying for electricity bill?
Yeah, for the whole year.
water bill and everything.
Correct. And then what's my petrol, gas consumptions and all, and then you start to go and collect, right? But like for whole year, and you imagine if you're a listed companies, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of office
People,
locations and
yeah.
cars, right, and trucks. Like if you're logistics, you have hundreds of fleets, and how much diesel that you actually have to pump every month. So it's quite overwhelming for a single person or a few people to track with Excel sheet. And that's what we are trying to change, right? To make it a lot more easier to get it right. But even if you do all that, you might still get it wrong, right? So then without a software, without the technology, that's where it becomes really difficult and challenging. But that's what I'm trying to say is at least, it gets in the last few years, right? The interest is because Brusa actually tells all the listed companies that you have to start doing this. So then that's where it trickled down, where people actually start looking into it and create the interest, create the awareness, where what is my scope 1, by the way, and where do I get it? What is my scope 2? Where do I get it? Where is my scope 3? Where do I get it? So then they all start to compile the numbers, right, and report there. So in that sense, it drives awareness. Lots of awareness because of that.
And speaking of that, so mostly it's incorporated by listed company. So that's the first layer, right? Does that trickle down to like SME or smaller to medium-sized businesses?
Yes, in some ways, because when we talk about the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and the 3 is the indirect. So that means, let's say, for example, you actually your big manufacturing company and you produce glove, right? Then you need to buy your raw material, rubber. Someone is selling you that, and the SME might be selling you the rubber. So then it trickle down, right? So now, because for me to manage my supply chain, my scope 3 as a big glove producer, I need my SME to actually tell me how much they emit as well.
Okay.
So it trickle down in the sense the whole supply chain comes together, right? 360.
I see.
Right? So from the big corporate down to their SME that supply them.
Right. So if you want to work with the big boys, you have to be meeting the criteria, the standards as well.
Yes.
Right, because you affect them, because they are trying to lower down their energy consumption. So people who work with them also should play the part, so they can all together lower down their credit score and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's really the whole ecosystem, right?
Like
you can see that, hey, from the buyer all the way to the seller, and then it just trickled down all the way to the whole supply chain. That's why they say the whole supply chain is the indirect emissions.
So that's why they are afraid if they don't apply this, especially in Malaysia, they cannot do business outside. They cannot export.
Yes, and then they cannot sell to people who actually export. Right. So then in some ways, and then now you also have all the big corporations need to report. So in some ways, it's not there yet because not all categories are covered, but it's going to happen. Right. So you notice that I only said 2 categories in scope 3. So everything that you buy are not in there yet, by the stock exchange at least, right? But it doesn't, there is already a rule or at least a plan by the stock exchange to expand the category in 2027, 2028 to cover more, right? So in that sense, it's coming, right, sooner or later.
Like cover more, like what?
So everything that you buy.
Okay.
So you have purchase goods and services, you have your investments, so then now they need to know for everything that I buy, how much is the carbon emitted.
Wow, really? So if I buy like a tablet for my employees,
Yes.
Then I need to calculate how much this tablet is emitting, like from the production of this tablet as well.
Yes, in short, yes. But the good news is the tablet will tell you most of it sometimes.
I see.
So then if you go to Apple website, you can actually find like your tablet, how much carbon it emits. It tells you the whole production.
Wow, but I have to keep track of every single item that I buy for a company.
That is where Pantas came in.
That's where technology like us comes in. So you imagine, let's say this is only like one, right? But you imagine if you're running a hotel, for example, right? If you're a hotel, you buy like thousands of items every month, every year, right? So how do you actually find and convert all this into the right emissions numbers, right? So that becomes like, it's not feasible if you're doing manually.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot
have one guy just keying in all the items there.
You cannot, right? And there are so many rules to it, like you said, right? So the one that publish you can use, the one that don't publish you have to find, right? And then also based on location, right? Okay, what's the closest that you can get? So there's many rules that goes into it on top of just finding it, right? So with we can go down into more details later. That's the biggest challenge really in whole carbon accounting. And then that's where technology like us really come in to solve it. Because then we can find it in seconds. Then we can do it all in hours and we're done. Right? So you can get the numbers accurately and submit it to where you need to go.
And speaking in terms of company who are compliant with the whole procedure, rules, metric, or whatever that is called, who is the one that set the standard, the regulation?
Well, I think so everything is like what we say, right? It's based on the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, GHG. So that's the set by the United Nations.
United Nations.
Correct. So it's the same across the world, so that you can compare apple to apple, right? In that sense. And then it depends on what you want to do.
So there's no like Asia has their own rule, EU has their own rule, US has their own standards, or it's not like that. It's all the whole world one standard, is it, the compliance?
So, the accounting protocol for carbon accounting is the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. And then they have a lot of framework, they call it, different framework. So, for example, you can have, Bursa might has its own National Sustainability Reporting Framework, right? And then there's, ISSB might have another framework, GRI has another framework. So there are many framework that you can comply to. So you take that number and you see, okay, what how they want you to answer. So that's also where software like us helps you to navigate. Right? You do once, you calculate the numbers, you can use in all these different framework. So they are, but you don't really need to manually maneuver a lot of this, because it's the same number that you can use across the different framework. So think about it that way.
But actually, how strict it is actually to comply. I mean, I know because you mentioned about it's expanding and it's they have a plan to stick to this, but how strict actually it is, in order to comply.
Or are they being incentivized to comply?
Yeah.
I think the answer there is really more on like, at the moment right now, we are in the phase where we are creating awareness. So really the goal is to get everyone to start doing it and answer and questions all this thing to figure out your footprint, how much you actually emit, how strict it is. I think the stock exchange and all will start to require actually to some of this. They ask you the question: is the number that you produce has been assured by an external
auditor? I see.
Right. So then they will come in and actually that's why to use the software, it shows a full audit trail of the data. Right. This is coming from where these numbers. So then in that sense, you can then answer back to all this assurance process that say you can back it up and say, okay, these numbers, why, where, how, right? And then the numbers will be, they can check it, and then then you're assured, and then you can show that you have actually done the due diligence. And then if you ask, what's the incentive, right, to actually get it right? Well, for one, if you're paying tax next year, you really want to make sure that you get it right.
Yep. So you don't pay extra tax.
I would say so. Right? So that's really the big key.
Like kind of like penalized also.
Yeah,
you have to pay tax.
Save, you want to save some costs, you better do it right. So you don't pay extra.
Correct. And it's the same for when you export to EU, right? There are 7 industries. So if you're exporting cement, for example, right, that's one of the things. So you better get it right. Right now, they are still 2025. It's just producing the number, and they want to just you to start doing it. Whether they will enforce you to actually pay next year, that's for us all to see. But that's the plan.
And this ties up to like incentivize or getting people to follow it. I think one thing that you mentioned a couple of times this word called carbon credit. It's something that blows my mind because I always read about it, but I totally don't understand what it's talking about because it's quite complicated. And I think this is pretty important thing that plays a whole plays out in the whole system, how to balance things out, right? So maybe you want to explain to us, like how you will explain to a 5-year-old what is carbon credit.
Well, think about it this way. When we calculate the carbon emissions, as we spoke for a while, right? And it's really to figure out how much you emit, right? So after you figure out how much you emit, you will hear a lot of companies that says, I want to achieve net zero, right? So then you ask yourself, okay, what does it mean to get to a zero?
Zero carbon emission.
Correct, right? So then a lot of these companies say, I'm going to be a net zero company. So what it means is that they are going to do everything in power to actually reduce their carbon emissions. So let's say I emit 100,000 ton currently. That's my carbon footprint. By going EV, installing solar, I'm going to go to reduce it all the way to 500 ton, right? Or CO2. And then you still have some and you cannot go to zero. So that's where carbon credit comes in, where you buy to offset your carbon credit to get it to zero. Because any activity that we do, you cannot get to zero, right? So then you need to offset it. And that's where carbon credit comes into play. So then that's why a lot of questions that is being asked is that, hey, what's are we buying it now, right? I think where we are at the moment is a lot of companies are just trying to figure out their carbon footprint, right? So because if you do not know how much you emit, you actually don't know how much you need to buy to offset. Right? So that's what carbon credit is all about. And then you would say, where does carbon credit comes from?
Yeah, where do we buy it
where
from?
do we buy it?
Who do we buy it from? And
Who is producing it here?
Yeah, for one, you can actually buy, Bursa has a carbon exchange that trades the carbon credit.
oh, really?
Yes.
Carbon. Okay.
So it's an exchange that can trade it. So you can go to the exchange and buy the carbon credit from the exchange. And then who can actually sell the carbon credit on the exchange? Right? So there are bodies that generate the certificate like Verra and Gold Standards and all. So to actually have that, for example, let's say you have a forest, right? For example, and there's two ways to make money from it. You can actually cut it down and sell the timber there, or you actually say, no, that doesn't sound right. I actually just want to preserve that forest.
Okay.
But you also want to get income from it. Right? For doing that, you want to get paid. So that's where you can get people like the Forest Research Institute of Malaysia to come in and measure how much carbon it sucks. Verra and Gold Standard comes in to check and issue you the certificate. Now you are being issued the certificate to go and sell to people to preserve as a reward for your preserving the forest. Right? So that's how the whole carbon credit works, right? Is that somebody has a forest, doesn't really want to chop it down. They are awarded to a certain carbon credit to preserve that forest. And then we support it. Companies that actually has a net zero, like the Meta and all the big boys there and all the big companies, they will buy it. So then that's who you sell.
So the carbon credit is helping them to lower down the credit that they cannot get to zero. Right. So the remaining credit they're still using, you buy that credit to go it down to zero. So using money basically to offset the carbon emission. Really?
And that's how they earn money.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's more like a win-win solution for both. I think about it that way, right? Because they have a successful business that makes money, and then obviously they also want to do their parts to make it up, right? For you to help you to preserve.
Right. So for example, let's say there's two forests being chopped down by two different people. So this forest A is they die they want to chop down this forest, but this forest B, this person, I don't want to chop down the forest. So this forest A, this person is gonna buy carbon credit from forest B to preserve his forest. So that forest A chopped down. So it's rather than two forests get chopped down, only one forest get chopped down. Is it how that works?
I think there will be a third party C who will pay the next one to don't chop it down.
Third party?
Yeah, because see,
the mediator lah. I mean,
means like the companies lah.
Okay.
There will be another person who actually said, hey, I want to achieve net zero and I want to support the guy to for preserving the forest.
not this itself, not directly the forest.
No,
A person
he is not
itself,
getting credit anymore.
Oh, okay.
Right, because he's already chopped it down. He only make his money, and he's not gonna get the support. Right, so then you want to cheer for this guide to actually do.
Oh, so
and preserve.
basically, I get what you mean. So this forest B will put his carbon credit on the open
Correct.
market to see who wants to buy that
Correct.
credit, right?
And then I'll support
Okay,
you
yes.
for your
Okay,
effort
okay.
to preserve your
So I
forest.
see in the same time I support you, but I also lower down my credit score
Correct.
because I buy from you, right?
Correct,
Buy that
correct,
credit. Oh, okay. It's like a whole ecosystem of
But I think the main one will be this, right? I mean, this is the one that preserves the forest.
Right. So then the preserve the forest also get rewarded for it, right? So both.
So it's a rewarding system in the same time.
Right. So you are creating an ecosystem to reward people to actually preserve their land, their forests, and then you also reward companies who say that I want to get net zero, and then I'm paying for it.
Right. So instead of everybody chop down forests together,
Just to make money.
yeah, just to make money, so you can have some people don't chop down, some people chop down, so you balance it out,
And
right?
both also make money.
And both make money, and you somehow manage to control the amount of emission or carbon
Yeah. It can
to a
reduce.
certain level, right?
Correct.
To,
And the whole idea is so that we don't have all this extreme weather behavior.
The save the planet thing.
Yes.
okay.
And then at the same time, you can earn money.
Correct.
That
so
is-
that's where they have figured out the whole economy to the whole ecosystem here to support people who actually want to preserve the environment.
Then I want to hear about your thoughts, your opinion about this, because when Trump came in, become president, and he suddenly chop out abandon this project, I don't want ESG anymore.
Yeah.
Like-
Use emit as much carbon as you want.
Well, what are your thoughts on this? Because they already they want to abandon it, but why? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
The way I see it is that, there's still a lot of different parts of the world who actually still believe in it. So you can see that the EU are still going with what they believe, and the whole CBAM are still going and in progress, right? And then Malaysia as well, right? We're still going forward in the whole path of the carbon tax, and then how we rewards, people to actually embark on this journey, the reporting for it. So the rest of the world are still in this journey together. Right, and there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of compliance, regulatory that's already set in place, and that will still continue, right? So for me, personally, I felt like the direction itself, we were still gonna continue, right? Because the rest of the world are still going to continue. Yeah.
But it's in for example, just take Malaysia. Are the companies getting more and more effective, or more and more? Are they more implementation in ESG compared to previously, or it's just everybody just okay lah, see how it goes, or just maintain lah.
Tidak
Tidak apa lah, never mind lah.
I think really I would say, it's exciting on the ground, because what we have seen, for example, we take the initiative by Post Malaysia, right? So Post Malaysia last year launched something called the Post Hijau. Post Hijau is supposed to be able to help all their customers, the businesses, to track if you ship with them up to the parcel level. So following this Global Logistic Emission Council GLAC framework, right? So it's international. And then what they can do is that, let's say you guys are generous and you give up t-shirts to everyone who subscribe to your channel, then you want to know actually what is my carbon emission if I ship with Post. So they are the first logistic company in Malaysia that are able to offer you that level of detail, right? And that's really by using, and that's where we work with Post to help them to build that system, right? It's sophisticated, because you imagine the millions of parcels that are being shipped every day.
Yeah.
And then the routes, right? It's not all the path that it travels, the type of vehicles that it goes on, from the initial truck to the last mile, where you talk about, they might use some EV bike, or they use a regular motorcycles to deliver the packages and parcel, and we can track all that. So in that sense, it's quite exciting development, right? Where every company sees their own. Is there a way to actually leverage sustainability to be profitable, right? And that's one of the excitement that I see, and that's why I said, I think what we have done by setting the rules, regulation in place now got people to aware of it, and then it's really now up to the companies themselves to see what works for me and take it from there, right? They say, hey, I have customers that are asking for it, I have clients who are demanding for this, so I can actually do it, So let me embark on this. Right. Then the same as well. The other exciting project that we actually got me really excited was the investment. So yeah. So you can think about, there's one category 15 in called the investment in scope 3. So for all investment funds or financial institutions, and one of them is our client, and we actually help them to figure out their attributed finance emissions. So what it means is that, I actually have a portfolio investment, right? I invested in many companies, like maybe Maybank, CIMB, or all this portfolio. How much is my investment if I own 10% of Maybank through the stocks attributed to me? So if Maybank emit like 1,000 ton, 10% of that is now my scope 3.
Oh.
So my investment. There's a formula to calculate all that. So then that's all this being set by the PCAF, they call it the Partnership for Carbon Accounting Financial. And Pantas is the Asia first, we are really proud of that to get accredited for it. And so that means that, we can automatically help you to figure out your investment, how much of it is attributed to you.
So I still don't really get the 10, for example, the Maybank example, the scope 3, 10% of the
is attribute
to you. How does that? I still don't understand
how does it work?
Well, you can think about it like, for all your investment, you are actually responsible for their emission.
Also, if you buy Maybank shares, you are also responsible for their
Indirectly.
emission. Indirectly.
You can control.
Okay.
So that's the whole idea right there.
And
Right?
how do I control? Let's say I'm a shareholder of Maybank. I have Maybank shares, and how do I get involved? Or how do I
as
control?
an individual, not so much.
Not so much.
But as an institution, you have. Because you might be owning a 10%
share,
20% or 30%. Then you can go to the board and say, hey, I actually want you, as compared to all the other banks, why are yours so high, or you're actually doing so good? Then continue the effort. So as a fund, now as a financial institutions, you have the power to control.
But why do I want to go in and control though?
And then it depends on whether or not you believe that, hey, this is the right profitable path for you or not. So, if you believe that by reducing your carbon emissions, by actually embarking on this sustainability journey is actually a good for business, and then you would go in and say, hey, can we do something about it? So that's really the whole idea of all this scope 3, right? Where you buy from, the item that you buy, right? You can actually buy from a lower carbon emissions and to reward people for the effort. Right, so you can say, hey, there are two same product, two same company. Why should I buy company A and not company B? Because one has a lower carbon emissions and one has higher. So it's the whole same concept of, like you say, I have two forests, one chop it down and one kept it. You want to reward the one that keep it. Right, so then same thing, right? You have two choice. As an investment fund, I see company A, company B. If I invest in company A, it will actually lower my scope 3 finance emissions.
Okay.
Company B, it might be higher.
Right.
So then, as part of my own journey, let's say if I say I want to be 0, I'm going to start to reduce. So if I own...
so I can actually use, if I invested in company A who has lower carbon emission because they're buying from more sustainable, their score can attribute to us as well.
Correct,
as an
and
investor.
then I'm lowering my scope 3 score.
Oh, okay.
So then it all helps me towards my own net zero. Right? If you ask it, why would a company do that? Because they might be signatories and they might have
because they have to be something to incentivize company to do that. If not, they don't really care about why do I need to lower my carbon emission. Right?
Yeah, correct. So then you see, it's for your own, and then for your own, you can also control where you buy and who you invest in, and then it also becomes back to you. So it's a whole circle, direct and indirect.
Right.
And that way, so then that's where we feel like when we talk about policy, it actually moves people towards the right direction, right? Like to lower the carbon transition there. You talk about investment and financials, it also is another way to move the public, right, or companies towards the low transition economy. And so that's the two big power there that you can see, right? And this whole green and GHG, scope 1, 2, and 3, the whole ecosystem are built to reward people to move to low carbon.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to do because there is reward not so much on punishment, but actually there's reward. And I think reward is something that would drive people to do it, because if you get punished, then people will just find a way to work around it. We have a guest previously also talking about
waste management.
Waste management, right? That is something that he also preached about, like I suggest about, like we should enforce more reward rather than punish, because punish people will try to find a way to cheat the system, work around it,
find the loophole, and want to get rid of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if I go back to, right, I would say then really what makes it so difficult, like, or what makes the challenge in all this carbon accounting and all that you talk about, right? There's really three reasons there, right? One is, how do you get your data, right? Because you have so much sources we all talk about, right? Gathering the data is always very difficult. Two, after you get the data, how do you find the right conversion to even calculate that? That's also very time consuming, right? And three really is the quality itself. After you do all that, how are you certain and sure that you get it right? Right. So those are the reason why, companies themselves have figured out, it's time consuming and it's very challenging. But the answer to that is really more, it doesn't have to be that way. With the technology that we talk about, that I wanted to actually share a bit more, like why it gets me excited and what we're doing and how we make it a lot more easier and seamless for people, like polls or, the fund they want to manage all that, right? Is we automate that. And what we mean is that, let's say, for example, if you have all your petrols in the fleet management system, we can have API to connect and pull. You don't need to go and record it one by one, right? So then that's just too time consuming already. Then for the next one, let's say you talk about TNB bills, right? TNB actually don't have API that you can pull automatically for security and privacy reason. So when you spoke to them and they said that, for security reason, they are not going to support that. So then having said that, your best choice is to download the whole PDF bill in bulk and then let us actually extract using OCR. So we have the optical character recognitions that we train our model to actually read all this, where to get the
basically just scan
all the documents
and then which part of it, right? And then all the nuances that you don't have to care about, because, or more like, let us handle it, because then we will figure out what if you have solar, and what if you use a green energy tariff, and then all those things you want to kind of also keep track of. So we pull that all in. And then there are times where you say, okay, actually I have this bill and I'm trying to report it to a different period, because you use a May one and you want to enter into June, the system will prevent you from doing that. Right? So those are the smartness that you say OCR, API, file, to get all the data into the system. Once you have all the data in the system, we have trained our model to be able to, very similar like how when you use Google, right? If you search for a keyword, right, and then the keyword will find you based on the semantic, it find you the result. So we use the same technology there, right, to say, hey, similar technology to say, when you have a Coca-Cola, it's carbonated canned drinks. When you have a Merlot, it's red wine. And there are all the emission factors right there that we have trained our model to actually be able to.
So you detect what item and then convert it to the factor, the carbon emission,
correct,
the energy.
And then from there we also have rules to say where has it been produced, and then what's the location of it, and then you pick the right one. Where are all the sources? Right, the reputable source of the emission factor, EPA, and all that we decide and we pick for you. And then we can say, for this item, include or exclude as well, based on the GHG protocol. So all this happens in less than a second.
I see.
Right, so then the 10,000 items that you buy, 5,000 items that a company buy, they're all from the invoices, descriptions, semantic of the word we match. And so we do all the conversion already, right? Then by the end, like what we talk about, the quality, right? Let's say, what if you got it wrong, right? Or some data itself, you're off, then you cannot even use, right? So manually is really difficult. But with the technology itself, because I'm really excited about this, it's anomaly detection, right? That's where it comes in. And what we talk about is, let's say, for example, in the past 2 months, you have always been using your electricity is only about 10 kilowatt. Right, suddenly it becomes 20. Something is not right. Something is 200. Right, so it's deviate from your normal usage. And the best example that we always can think about is that, let's say you use a credit card. You always buy in Malaysia only, and one day it shows up in France. They will call you. right? Because it's deviate from your normal pattern. And that's how technology then comes in with anomaly detections here to improve the quality, right? We're saying that
accuracy as well.
correct.
Yeah.
Right? Any things that deviate from the normal, we highlight that. And then you should check. And then you only verify the one that you think might be off. And then now you have a pretty confident system now, right? Automated data entry, transform and conversion. And then there's a check to see anything that is highlighted for you to verify, right? Off. The quality is good. And then when the auditor and all comes in to do the assurance, they have full audit trail of everything. So in that sense, now all challenges with the carbon accounting are kind of make it easy and seamless already.
Who normally in like a big company who you integrate the system in, who are the one which department in the company that's the one putting in all this data? Because you need to have someone to put in the data.
I think the one
right?
that handle only ESG department.
That's the actually, I would say not with our system. That's not the case anymore. But without our system, that was the case.
ESG department, right?
Correct. So they used to be the one that will go out and send out the Excel sheets and say fill that all in for me, right? But with us, we actually comes in and understand your whole organization structure, and we say the data has to come from the finance department. So we will set up this data to be accessible by finance department. They are the one that will upload the data.
Okay. Yeah, because every purchase goes through them, right? Yeah.
Correct. And then let's say the HR department might knows the employee commute or the business travel. Well, they will go there.
So they still have to key in the data manually, or they just upload all the invoices or whatever to your system, and then your system will detect all. So how does it work then?
We have three options for them. So we work with our clients. So that's why there's a lot of our understanding where the data source are coming from, and like what we said earlier, if they have API, we will do the connection. So end of the day, we pull all the data in. It can be real time, right? Then if it's electricity, because it's only
PDF.
the PDF, you upload everything to us.
I see.
Right, but if all tools are not there, you have files that you collect, you can upload to us, or we have a system where you can just bring out your phone and you key in. So instead of keying in, 1 year once or go we actually can configure our collections. So we call it that, let's say you're the one that responsible for this branch. You have no system to collect the data yet. Come into our website, key in. That's it, we collect it.
I see.
So in that sense, you have multiple ways, and there won't be one for all. Because, for example, let's say in the HR system, you're already using a HR system, and the HR system can tell me where or how your employee.
Yeah.
So
true.
If you have that control, your IT department, your technology department, they actually have a way to export all your data. Just export it.
Yeah, just get the API and then lead it to your system.
Yeah, or you actually don't want the API because the software cannot support API. They have an export to file CSV. You export the file to us. Then you SFTP to us. So you send the file to us. Right? So in that sense, that's where we try to make it like once you set it up once, you don't have to really
redo again.
And then you can see and track the progress every month. We help you to send the reminder. We tell you what is your progress completion, who has done it, who has not done it. And then we help you to follow up with the email. And then the whole security of like single sign-on, because you have people who will come and leave, right? And then you actually manage it. A lot of the enterprise have they use this Active Directory that's by Microsoft. And then they actually say, okay, once it exit, this person shouldn't have access anymore, right? So then we work with them to that level of detail, right? Okay, this person no longer exists. You cannot log in anymore. So it's automated. So in that sense, it's crucial to have a system because people leave, come and go. And if you're doing it in Excel sheets manually, they bring it with them.
You have to make it robust and convenient for people to use it.
And Eon, can you walk us through what is the duration timeline? Like for example, the data entry process until then you have to verify to QA and then to audit. What can you break it down? Usually how long in order to implement?
So for us, because the whole system is already ready, we can go live tomorrow. But the usual time that you will take is because now what are all your organization structure, right? The company itself would let us know. And then where are all your data? Then what are all the scope that you want to do? So it can range from few weeks to a month or two.
Oh, actually, not too bad. Even
yeah.
1 to 2 months.
Yeah, it's not, because once we have that, we set it, people can start using it, and then tomorrow you go live. And then everyone start logging in and go already. So we have a UAT for them to test, and after they verify that this is what you want, this works for you, and this looks correct, everyone starts signing.
But then how much data do you need actually? Like, for example, do you need like the past 3 years or the past 5 years? Or, because for example, I want to start, then how should we do this? Like, should I provide you the 5 years of data and I have to goreng all the,
So the way we say is like, you start from today and then you go forward. So then every single month we advise our client to have a checkpoint, right? So you have all your stuff there, and then so you don't have to do everything by the end of the year. And then you only report the number once a year, because it's the very same with the financial disclosure.
The report is just you collect the data, consolidate, and submit the report.
And then at the end, when you do the financial report to the exchange, then you report it. So you have once a year reporting that you have to do. But the collection happens throughout.
Of course, like doing accounting like that. Like every month you have to do accounting, then at the end you have to submit to auditor.
And then if you're thinking, okay, what about the past 5 years, 3 years? Then it's really your choice already. Because you can let us consume your data. You give us your file that you use, and we will transform it. We do all the ETL, and then we ingest into a system, and we say, okay, these are the numbers that if you want us to calculate again for you, we can also do that. Then you can see for yourself, is it matching, not matching? Also the history. Most people do it because they want to see the history.
But can I use the history, right? That, can I use this history for my carbon credit? Or I have to, after that only is eligible to use it, or I cannot use the past records? Like, even though I do know, because I still like, okay, I'm using the aircon is like eco-friendly one, something like that. Can I use the past record for the future one, or cannot actually?
It actually depends on what you want to. Companies have the discretion to set it themselves. They can say, okay, I want my base year to be this year, or I want base year to be last year, because my last year is a lot higher. So then you decide, and then we consume it, and we can use that number. And the main thing is that once you decide your base year, what's your target, and then you track. So in that sense, it's not a fixed rule. It's really the company's choice to say which year is my base year, which year. Of course, there are some guidance that we can provide, but ultimately it comes up to the customers to decide.
I want to switch a bit to another section. Right now we are talking more about modern companies, MNC companies, that cares about implementing all this thing. But in Malaysia, we have a lot of not just Malaysia, but we speak in Malaysia in particular. We have a lot of really, old companies running from the 80s, 70s, 90s, right? Which is, the baby boomers are still the owners of the company. Trading company, construction company, they all have all these lorries and old trucks and even cars that producing so much white gas, And this really annoys me a lot of time, like this truck running down the street, fuming all the white gases, right from their exhaust into my car. And it's like they don't really care, even buses as well. So, and these companies being they are more old school, they're not so tech savvy, right? How do you get them to implement, or what are your thoughts on this company moving forward, that they can reduce their emissions, carbon emissions and stuff? How can we improve the situation in
I think it all goes back to dollar and dimes, right? And that's what a lot of clients, when we spoke to them, are also saying the same thing. What's good for the business? So they have to believe that by embarking on this sustainability journey, it's going to help their business. So help as in it's going to either open a new market, because previously you cannot sell to companies who actually want the number. Now you can. So if you can show them that, hey, by embarking on this, you can actually get new customers, new market that you can open, then it's a whole new world for them, right? Because they that's what companies see. And I agree with them, right? Because if you're a registered company listed and you are legally obliged to be profitable. You're seeking profit, right? So then in that sense, what do you see as a company, and how can we work with them to show them that, hey, by embarking and having your carbon footprint, tracking it, you can now open new markets that you never before tap in, or you can develop a new product that you never tap in. So the good example that are really proud of is one of our very early clients is the Datai Langkawi. So it's a luxury hotel in Langkawi itself, and you will see in their they release this report, the Datai Pledge Impact yearly, right? And then you will see that they actually all their sustainability journey for the future. So then they have a big reserve, and they actually get people to calculate how much carbon they suck in, and they're using Pantas to figure out how much carbon they emit, and they publish it, right? And say, hey, come stay with us. This is the way that we actually taking care of the environment, right? And be responsible. And you can feel good actually go and actually stay at the hotel, because, you know, that's our effort, our journey to give back. And so in some ways, you can see, right, there's always way to position your brand, to actually, you know, figure a new market, a new product itself. But how serious are you of the company themselves to be committed to it and to make the effort and to really explore? And if you are doing that, we are ready to work with you. And those are usually our clients.
But are you seeing like the traditional company, especially those like I've mentioned, those really old school company, which they are so comfortable with their ways of doing things? They say, and you know, Malaysia, we always have this tidak apa attitude, right? As long as it works, right? My truck is moving, I ship this thing there, you know, doesn't matter lah, you know, dirty lah, smoke lah, you know. So because we always have this mentality, so do you see that portion of businesses starting to change their mind? Maybe the younger generation, their kids is coming out to take over their businesses, starting to implement this, or it's still going to be like that for, you know, I mean, for the 10, 20 years to come, for quite some time.
I would have to say, you know, thanks to the regulations,
okay,
then they actually are doing it. So for example, if you want to sign up to be a vendor to any of this listed company, one of their rule could be, I do a due diligence and check on all this company, hey, can you actually start using Pantas? And then, okay, suddenly I have no choice, right? I want to sell to you, and you.
But I'm not willing to work with you yet.
Yeah, so then you know, go and start calculate your carbon emission. It's one of the due diligence that we are doing, and it's a requirement.
I see.
For me to buy from you, they will go.
I see,
and they will do, because it's all about profit. If a new business. So if the big corporate, right, actually wants to enforce this, they can. Right? They can just say, I'm not asking you to reduce, right? I'm not even asking you to change your truck to EV truck. All I'm asking you is, can you start to calculate and
track it, have data.
Correct. And what you want to do is your choice, but I just want you to track it. And so it's not too tall of an order, and they even give you a platform, which it does. Right? And then you use us to track it. And it's easy. Right? So in that ways, I do believe that because of a new business opportunity, and it's so easy to do, just like how you claim your petrol or your expenses, just one more things that you spend a few minutes doing every month. Right? So the key is to make it very easy, very seamless, that they can do. They don't need to learn. Right? They don't need to know how to do scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. None of that, right? It's really like, where's my electric bill? Where's my petrol bill? Where's some of the things that I want to do for scope 3, if I want to.
Do they even track, like I keep mentioning, like the trucks producing all those gases? Do they even go in and track? Because I can track my petrol consumption, I can track my diesel consumption, but my condition of my truck, why are they producing so much white gas and stuff like that? Can those be tracked?
So there's different emission factor for different type of vehicle. So in that sense, you can, right, to say, hey, you know, these are diesel and how many tons, and then they already have the average.
How long has they been serviced? Do they track that as well?
Something, the year of manufacturing, that one I'm not too certain, but definitely the type, yes.
I see.
Now then the rest, I will have to leave it to the motor vehicle department, right?
Yeah, because those are the things that we can't track, right? Because whenever there's a truck that's not being serviced or not well maintained, they're producing all this gas. It seems like they don't really care. It's, as long as the truck is running, it's good. And there's no way to track that as well, unless they're going in and tracking like when did they service this truck, how long has it been used already, is it well maintained, blah blah blah, right? So those are the stuff that I think that should find a way to track as well.
Unless they have the IoT system implement into the car, plug in, then you get from the IoT system, then get the API out, then only track. But this is a long thing.
Correct. But the good news is, if you think about it one step back, actually you can, because that means they consume a lot more diesel.
So calculate from the diesel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You see how it all link back, right? I have a very inefficient truck. That means instead of consuming 1,000 liter, I'm going 2,000 liter, right? Because it's so inefficient in burning. So then at the end, you look at the 2,000 that this truck consumes.
So if you want to consume less diesel,
buy
your truck better be well maintained or a more efficient truck like you're using, I say.
So that's also part of you talking now, we go into the second phase, right? So after all you calculate, you have the numbers and all. What do you do with it? What can you do with it, right? It's what we talk about decarbonization. So the journey to reduce your carbon emission, right? So then we have a lot of partners. For example, Solar West, right? So your factory, you can set up a solar panel and then you can actually reduce your consumption. And why it's so special is because we know how much you actually emit. We can show you the ROI. If you actually spend this much, in 3 years, you can get back your cost. And then how much more you can save after that. So similarly as well, right, on the truck you mentioned, we work with another startup called Safe Truck, right? So they also try to track by IoT and AI modeling and all how efficient or inefficient a truck can be. So then in that way, you can now see, okay, this truck is really inefficient compared to all the others. Maybe it's time for me to change. Right, so the decarbonization of reducing your carbon actually goes down to that level, right? Now that you know, do you want to do something about it? If you want to do something about it, we can actually suggest solution for you to do, and custom it for you.
Maybe for those business, maybe some sort of a punishment might be needed because they don't care about the reward, right? They just track, they track or don't track. I don't care. I don't want the reward. I just want my business to jalan only.
But what if we tell them that, hey, if you actually, you can save 5,000 every month just by fixing.
Right.
I think you see the value already.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole ROI, the platform is supposed to be powerful enough, right? To say, hey, my truck, I'm using 2,000, 5,000 ringgit every month. But if you are more efficient, actually you can cut down to 1,000. And then you can actually get a financing. Sustainability loan, low carbon LCTF that we talk about. And then to help you to to help you to switch to a more efficient one. And then in 3 years, you get a new truck you pay off. And the savings, you actually pay just 1,000 every month. So even if you're old school, you're traditionals, it doesn't matter, right? If you want to do it, there's a way to do it.
Yeah, rather than the traditional thinking of, I save on servicing, maintaining this truck, I can use this money somewhere else. That if you maintain this truck properly, you can gain something here even more. Right?
In the long term.
And
then you have all the carrots and incentive to actually help you to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's what we are really proud of, the system, the ecosystem that's in place. Right, from policy, the corporates, and then the whole supports for all the SME to the decarbonization journey of you, and showing you that, hey, there's a rewards for it. And then to get the rewards, we even support you with the financing for it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's an end-to-end kind of a solution there.
I think we touched a lot of ESG, but I would like to touch a bit on your personal background actually. Since actually you work in Bloomberg in the US, right? Then but why do you spend 14 years there? Then it's suddenly come back to start up this with your co-founders? Why?
I think really while I was there, when I first started, I was like a software engineer myself, right? And I joined the team that actually built the trading platform there, right? We talk about the low latency algo trading and all. It was really exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. And then we go into more, even after that, my last few years there, we were using AI and machine learning to actually analyze all the regulatory reporting. So all the financial institutions, when you trade, you have to report to SEC or all this regulatory body. And you have a very short time, right? In 24 hours, you have to report. So then huge, right? Because you're talking about millions of transactions a day, right? And then 24 hours, it has to be right. So it has to be fast. It has to be, when something is not right, how do we tell all these financials where to fix it, how to fix it, so they're all in compliance. So all exciting and all, but after a while, 10, 14 years, you kind of also figure out, hey, what's the purpose of all this here? What's the impact here, right, that I'm making, right? And so then there's the part in me that feels like I definitely enjoyed the whole journey, but I want to do more with what I've learned. And really giving back is where the thoughts come from. And then the opportunity just happened, as in like my co-founders, right? Max is the CEO and Shaida is the COO. So the three of us, right? And then he has this idea, and I was like, let's try it. So then we built it, we pitched, and then there are investors who, friends and family, sit around that believe in us, and we started May 2021. So that's the journey there. And I felt like if I don't do it, I will really be in corporate for a really long time. And I feel like I want to do more to have a solution that have a bigger impact, like what we talk about today. It's very different. Like, yes, it's exciting, it's fun working for the financial industry, the fintech industry and all, but it's actually a different joy when you can see that you are making an impact differently, like you say. Like how do you actually find a way to convince and show that, hey, even as a business that don't really care about sustainability, you can actually benefit from it, right? If you do, and then you have the solution for it, and you're using that technology for it. So, hey, it's actually having the impact is the one that I would say.
I see.
Like,
is your co-founders also your colleague in the US, or they are?
They're actually my friends for a really long time. So we know each other for like, how all Malaysians, we get together, we eat.
Yeah.
And Max and I, we eat almost, we had dinner every Friday for like 10 years,
Wow.
So how close we were. Still are, right? So obviously, and then so that actually is a bunch of us getting together, but we are not colleagues, right? So he's always in the investment fund banker. So he has his own track record. He started his own startup there. He exited successfully. And then this is the second startup for him. So, to me, that having the right partner is also
it's extremely important.
Correct. Right. And if you ask, what's that, that leap of faith, right? It's really, it's not an easy decision, but it's a very clear decision for me, because at that time, I was asking myself these questions of Jeff Bezos, right? He has this quote: to decide on certain things, whether to do or not to do, is, will you regret not doing? And
Very true. Very true.
Right? So I asked myself, will I regret if I don't take on this startup and start Pantas? And the answer is, I will surely regret.
Very true.
Right? So then it's easy already. Then the rest is like, okay, why, right? Why will I regret it? Because they are the best partners that I can ever ask for to start up together. The reason for that is, one, friends. We know each other. We have the right attitude and we have the right culture, mindset. They're all set, right? And then he has a successful exit. He knows the financial side of it, the fundraising and how the business and run with it. And Shaida has been there as well. She's doing the operations on the side of in investment banks and all for a while. So I have all these two brilliant people, that I trust and that I know we will put everything in it to make it work. So it's so true, because when we first started, the Pantas is actually e-invoicing.
Oh, okay. So the initial idea was e-invoicing.
Yeah, and I built the whole MVP for it.
That was the new thing in town, right?
We were ahead of our time. Fortunately and not fortunately, we were ahead, because LHDN did not have the rules in 2021. So then, but we already built the whole system.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we were ahead of our time. But then, because there's no compulsory to push, it's really difficult, right? Even though you have a full working product, offering for free, and then we partner with funding societies to offer the financing, and that's where we make all the money. But it's difficult because there's no regulation at that time. So then in 2022, we pivot into this, right? And all it takes is, a good founders and the incredible team, right, of our software engineers, data scientists, and the whole business analysts, and also we're all in there together, and we decide that, hey, we believe that by going into this sustainability journey, we're gonna make an even bigger impact, and this is the path forward, and we pivot. Yeah, so if that's why I always believe, right, a strong, successful team is the core, because then whatever you do, you figure out along the way. Because there's always going to be a roller coaster.
Yes.
Right? So then you figure out, and then with a strong team, that's how you can pivot.
Yeah, a strong team that complements your weakness, that's extremely important. I think that's the key factor to succeed in any business.
And we all bring different expertise, right? Like, he has his own whole financial background with him running a startup, and I bring with me my technology background. So then, we all comes together and we make it work.
How do you feel back then? I'm pretty sure working in finance in Bloomberg for 14 years, the pay is going to be pretty damn good. Quitting that, leaving that, 6 figure, 7 figure, whatever you are earning back then to open this, I'm pretty sure you're going to get paid a lot lower, or probably none in the beginning. How did that feel, that decision? Although you know you're not going to regret it.
The key is really, how do you find joy in what you do? Right, and that's what I always feel like getting up to go to work, knowing that, hey, this product here is going to at least make an impact, right? And also the people, right? To like what you said, right? Like, I have experienced it, the opportunity for that, right? I'm humbled by it, and then time to actually see how I can give it back, and that's where to come back and to experience the different ways of doing things. Right? So the what joy do I see is really when people have faith in us and trust in us,
yes,
right? And say that, hey, there's a lot of talented people in Malaysia, and that's how I met, my engineering team and my whole BD team, data scientists, and all, they're all talented, right? And they're all looking for a environment where they can thrive, and so by coming back and actually learn and say, I'm not saying the culture in the West really promote innovation, and that's what you have to really give it to them, right? The openness to say what works, what doesn't work, and to the speed to try and to really innovate there, right? And then if you ask, okay, so then how is that different? Well, if I stay in a big corporate, it's a comfortable journey.
Yes, definitely.
Right? But in a startup in Malaysia, I'm actually getting rewarded by figuring out and create this environment where people can innovate.
And it's something that you own, right? You start by you and your partners, right?
Yeah,
it's something that you ownership.
And you can actually see the joy where they feel like, hey, they believe in the dream. They believe in that, we are on the right track and we're doing the right thing, and they are all fully invested in it. So we all share the same dream.
But were you scared back then?
I have to say, I was asked this question, is like, hey, what if you fail? So then I actually asked the question back, how do you define the failure? Because, I know what I had before, and whether, of course, we all want the Pantas to be very successful, right? To be a unicorn. That's all our dream, right? But in any case, however it turns out to be, the experience itself is so valuable. I will never get that greed, that determination. Because back then when someone tells me, starting a company, I'm sure both of you are entrepreneur, and it's difficult. You wouldn't know it until you start yourself.
Yes, exactly.
that constant greed that you have to have every day, right? That constant
the
push.
grit, yeah,
right. That you wouldn't know until you really do it, right?
Yeah.
It's 24/7, and that, as well as really working out, like you say, right? There's always going to be differences. There's always going to be challenges. Every day is about removing obstacles, fighting a
Problem
different type of fires.
And just have to believe, keep
You have to-
believing.
yeah.
You have to be delusioned a bit. Still keep
Right, is that belief, and it's actually a long journey. Right?
Yeah,
it's not,
definitely.
It's not just one moment, right? Because then to me, then there's no failure anymore, right?
Yeah.
However it turns out to be,
Yeah.
that experience itself, you're gonna carry with you in
Yes.
whatever that you do next,
Yeah.
right? And that is so valuable, right? Like however it turns out to be, I think I'm already like a much better leader, right? And that knows how to navigate that, creating a product from scratch, building from scratch, scale it, right? And then really now we have 1,000 users worldwide. How do I scale with my limited resources? Like a startup, we have like 30 people, right? And that's what we got, right? And big corporate, hundreds, thousands, it's so different, right? But for us, we have 30 and we are trying to grow. And what's that hard prioritization of what brings the biggest impact? What is the most important to our customers? What is most important for the product itself? And what do we need to do next? Constant prioritizing, staying focused, staying disciplined, and like you say, for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Whoa. That is the key to
Yeah.
to
I totally can resonate with you because Steven has been an entrepreneur almost his whole life. And that's when I met Steven, right? So for me, it's very the same case with you. I'm 18 years in the company, taking the leap of faith, and asking the same question, should I leave? But once you said that, is this something that you will regret not doing? I think that question really something that stuck with me, that triggers me to pull the trigger, giving up a high paying job, jumping out, starting fresh again. Yeah, but I think the question is, will I regret not doing this, or am I afraid of the failure? I think more towards that. Am I going to regret this? So that overcomes the fear of failing, actually.
Yeah, because to add to that, right, really it's like, the challenge of a startup, really, back in the culture when we have a town hall, my co-founder actually shows this, and everyone is in the startup world will see, it's about how do you assemble your plane as you fall off the cliff. So, that's what a startup is, right? You have very limited time, very limited resources.
Yeah.
You need to build a plane before it crash, and then you fly. And that's the challenge there, right? But then, like you say, right, the fear of failure, it's huge. But the way that I see it, I have met so many amazing people that I learned so much from.
Yes.
Right, the whole journey, it actually, to me, there's no, yes, the company or the product may be successful or may not. But as an entrepreneur yourself and the experience that you go through is going to make you a better one than next. But you can see like all this successful startup itself. The first one that they created may not be.
Yeah, may not be the one.
May not be the
No,
one.
correct.
Yeah.
They pivot to another.
They pivot or they start another one. And they start another one. And the first few failures are the one that actually make them, they know what not to do anymore. Hey, I cannot trust, or I cannot raise, or I cannot bootstrap, or I actually shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. You learn everything, right? So then it's up to you now, right? The next will be different, and the next will be better.
Yeah.
That's the spirit of the whole entrepreneur, right? Like, you never know until it's the end of the game.
You have to be okay with not knowing what's in front of you.
Yeah. And really how you stand out. So even for me, myself, right? So we talk about how all this AI today, right? So back then you have the Industrial Revolution, right? It really replaces the muscle, right? But then it also the cost of all the pollution, right? Because you have to burn the fossil fuels and to get the energy to replace all the muscles, right? And then now you have the AI revolution coming, right? And it's already here, right? And it's about intelligence, right? So in this age, everything and anything can be assisted. So what I have learned and know, 10 years ago is you have to relearn everything all over again.
Yeah.
Right? So in that regard, right, that's what I was saying. It's like, as long as we have the right mindset and the right attitude, right, nothing can stop you. Right?
Yeah.
It's just about
Nothing is
keep on-
impossible.
Nothing impossible.
Correct. And then you just keep on trying because once you have that, right, it's all about timing and luck. And those you can't really
You can't control.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's like basically like you are doing the e-invoicing, right? not right place, not right time.
Correct.
Then you have to pivot somehow. But this right place is the right time on the sustainability, the ESG came in, and then they compulsory have to comply
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Correct. And so, but you only can control what you control, right?
Yes,
you
yes,
do,
You're right.
and that's what the whole all so beautiful about this entrepreneur journey is.
Yeah.
That to say, hey, we do what we can, and then when it doesn't work, is how quickly we
Pivot.
and learn, right?
Yeah.
And then we don't make the same mistakes again, right? And just keep on trying. Keep on trying. That's what I feel like every day is. It's like,
Yeah.
start solving a new obstacle, keep on trying, and keep on figuring it out and see what works and what doesn't work, and the world will change around you, and then you just figure out what will work.
So, moving to the few more questions before we close out this amazing conversation. Very inspiring. I totally clicked with what you say. Setting up like the entrepreneur journal with Steven and Kenji, who's running the whole production behind the cameras. Right. I feel extremely fortunate, like meeting new people. I think the entrepreneur journal that we set up wasn't the first idea, so we had other ideas in mind. I met Steven and Kenji, we talked about other stuff, and then in the end came to this entrepreneur journal. So we actually pivoted quite a bit as well, but totally relate to and inspired by what you say and how far you have come. So moving forward, like in 3 to 5 years time, how do you envision Pantas and the whole environmental? What goal are you trying to achieve? Like your vision?
So the whole goal is really to make the whole sustainability more accessible, more easier for everyone, right? And then it becomes like something that you don't even think about, right? It's so similar, so easy, and if you want to, it's at the fingertip. You can do it already, right? So that's really the whole goal for us, right? But even to come back a little bit more to say, hey, the whole idea about building something that has an impact. That's what you're talking about, right? Earlier, actually, back in the days, about many years ago, I visited Bhutan, and it's a beautiful country,
Yeah.
right? But they don't have much modern
Infrastructure
conveniences.
and stuff.
Yeah, you know, our car was driving through this dirt path road, right? And there's no street lamp, so there's no lights.
Oh,
And
no
at
street
night,
lamp.
Yeah,
Okay.
you saw these people just walking on the streets, and there's no lights. And then I asked myself at that moment, right? Say, all right, I'm in this technology world. I'm building on this amazing trading platform, but how does it even help or make an impact?
Bhutan is mining Bitcoin. That's the beauty of it.
Right, but you see, they have
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah.
Right, so that's the thing. Right? So much electric, and because they have a lot of waterfall and all, it's so pristine. But how do you actually help the one that is not mining Bitcoin? Right, there are a lot of them there, and how do you make an impact? And at that time, I don't have the answer. Right? I really don't. But fast forward a few years now, after all the journey, I felt like Pantas is the answer, right? Because we are doing something to create awareness and to actually make an impact and make a difference. And hopefully by the end result of it, they can preserve that beauty, right? And make it accessible for more. And you can actually feel it wherever you go, right? How do you preserve that beauty in the world, the way we touch it, right? So that's what I feel I really hope, it's where we can go towards in a few more years.
Yeah, contribute towards preserving the environment. At least play a part in what you guys are working on right now.
Correct. Right. And then if I just may, like detour a little, right, of a story, it's like when I first started as a software engineer, my best friend, right, he told me this. He said this to me: how do you become a really good software engineer? What's important? And I still believe what he said until today. I practice it. Is very simple. Every time that you touch a piece of code, you leave it in a better place. So, if I had this piece of code that I'm working on, I will make sure I leave it in a place where, it's easier to read, it's easier to maintain, it's much more efficient, it's much more secure, it's much more scalable. And I truly believe in it, and that's what I do. And the same principle will apply, right? How do we leave this world a better place? Like we are all touching it and where we found it, but how do we even make sure that, when we leave it, it's actually much better than it was before? Right? So that's how I see technology, culture, people, and all merge together, right? Like it's the same principle. If you believe that you are gonna do the right thing to be a really good software engineer, you're actually gonna leave a piece of code in a better place. As a person, individual, what's the right thing to do? You found the earth, you found the place where you are now. Are you leaving it in a better place? And that's what we hope to do.
Any last question before we close
No,
up?
I mean, I've asked all my questions already to you.
Yeah, I think it's a very inspiring story.
Yeah, definitely.
For what you guys are doing, the cause, the why you guys are doing it, I think it's very important. Not just a business, but actually making an impact. ESG used to be an extremely dry topic to me, right? But I think I see things a bit different now. The whole ecosystem of the governance of sustainability, the whole ESG ecosystem,
and how it affect the climate change.
Climate change, yeah, definitely. I have a newfound respect for the whole industry and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and like really, I just wanted to say, right, like what you mentioned earlier, to reiterate, is that it's an honor to work and found the partners that really resonate and believe in the same dream like you and work hard towards the same goal, right? So make sure that if you guys are listening, so it has been an honor and still is an honor to work with both of them and to have the whole incredible team behind it. Right? It's definitely not
a one-man show.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a team
the whole
play.
team that behind it, right? Yeah. The whole engineers, the data scientists, the business analysts, sustainability analysts, UI UX designer, product manager,
yes.
all of them coming together to create this incredible ecosystem, the way I see it. Right. That's how we built the whole partnership, right, with everyone, so that we can make a difference together. Right. So again, thanks for the opportunity to come here and really to share, right? It's an amazing journey to be entrepreneur in Malaysia, actually.
Fantastic.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I think that's a lot of information. I think you've broken it down to as simple as possible for people who are listening to understand. Even people like us, I'm not so smart, but after asking and how you explain it, I definitely understand a lot more about the ESG environmental impact. Where can people find you, Eong?
Pantas.com.
Pantas.com.
Yes.
And any social media would you like to shout out as well? Of your own personal one or even Pantas? Or
no,
anything?
Really, we are heavily on LinkedIn. And then these days you can also find us on like Instagram, TikTok, and all. We're all on it, Pantas.
Is it Pantas or your personal one?
Pantas.
Okay.
Pantas.
Yeah.
So
So we'll leave those in the description below so everyone can check it out. Yeah. And thanks, Eong, for coming on to the show and sharing all this wonderful insight.
I think for those who like new to ESG and want to apply, I think they can find Pantas.
Yes. Links in the description below. Yeah, this is the end of the show. And if you guys enjoyed the episode, feel free to like, subscribe, or even leave a comment down below if you have any questions for us or Eong about Pantas, ESG, or anything that we have discussed today. And this is the end of the episode. If you guys discover this journal, don't keep it to yourself. Share it to the world. And me and Steven will see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.
Cheers.